Hey guys, sorry about that. Thank you for bearing with us here. Awesome. So yeah, keep on putting where you are from in the chat for us so that we can have a look at where everybody is calling in from. While I just quickly share this on Facebook from us. KY, whereabouts is KY? Is that Kentucky? Sorry, as you can see or hear from my accent, I am, yeah, Kentucky. Okay, cool. Blowing Rock, is that North Carolina? Cool. I'm going to, I was able to, Memphis. Yeah, cool. I was able to come over, I was coming to the US like all the time, but obviously this year at the moment, I'm finding it a bit difficult.
I'm back.
Yes, awesome. Thank you for that. Let's try that again.
So interesting thing, of course, when things happen. And right when I clicked off there, my mouse battery died. So quickly get a revamp there.
Okay. Well, I am just sharing. I'll be 2 more seconds and then we're going to dive right in here.
Awesome. And again, if you're new to the call, if you haven't been on here, say hi. And then as we go, make sure you put in the chat questions that you might have about adrenal fatigue or anything that we touch on tonight, because I'm going to dive into a bunch of different things. Yet I will tell you, one of the reasons this is my favorite strategy is because in the event that you're trying to move yourself or level yourself toward being superhuman or just being the best version of yourself, you have to have your adrenals strong. So if you have any questions, I want you to put them into the chat. There should be a chat button at the bottom of your thing here. And this is one of the topics that, and Karen, we'll dive into this, but I think this is probably one of the most overlooked, undervalued one thing about our health across the board. And I'm going to cover this tonight because I truly believe this is kind of a hidden factor for many of us when it comes to our health. We don't even know about it.
This is live on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I was just getting a question whether or not it was live on Facebook yet. Did we go live?
We are live. Awesome. We're live on Facebook now. Okay. So now that we're live, let's dive in. Let's get started because everybody does want to know about this topic. First, I want to introduce you so that everybody can get to know you a little bit. So we are super lucky to be able to discuss this with you. Dr. Bart is a healthcare provider for over 20 years, practicing a whole bunch of different modalities, chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, nutrition and functional testing, all from his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, which I'm really excited to go to one day. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is an executive program for entrepreneurs and CEOs wanting to really maximize their health and optimize their performance. Dr. Bart has also worked with thousands of people around the world, including celebrities, athletes, a whole bunch of really exciting people. And so the knowledge that we're getting from all that experience tonight hopefully is really going to add a ton of value to you, because as Dr. Bart was saying, this topic is so important and really affects like such a wide range of people. And we have a special guest here next to you as well.
Oh, yeah, that's George. George is in the house. You know, every time, Karen, you say that I've been practicing for 20 years, it always makes me think, oh my goodness. Am I finally at that age where like, oh my God, I've been doing something for over 20 years. So anyways, well, welcome everyone. Nice to have you, especially if you just joined us on Facebook. Like Karen just said, I am super excited about this topic. And I think the core reason is, there's really two reasons behind it. One, it's something that I experienced in my personal life. And I'll share what I mean. Like I experienced full out adrenal fatigue and didn't see it coming, didn't know it existed. And as a result of it, it's really helped me help literally thousands of more people become the best human being that they can be. And that is one of my favorite things about this. So you guys hear me talk about the idea and the concept of being superhuman. Well, I'll tell you, without strong adrenal glands, you will never be the best superhuman that you can be. So tonight, we're going to go through a couple things, Karen. We'll make sure that we understand like what are the symptoms of having adrenal dysfunction and also adrenal fatigue. And I'll kind of define for everybody what those two different things are, or really what three different things they are. We'll go through the symptoms, we'll go through the causes, and because it's not as simple as, oh, just under a lot of stress. Stress is a huge part of it, but sometimes there's other things that contribute to the body breaking down over long periods of time. And then, of course, the most important part, like, what are we going to do to fix it? How do we take action on an individual basis? How do we level ourselves up to get ourselves to, in the strategy and in the process of becoming superhuman? And without adrenal function being strong, difficult to be the best version of yourself, no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's start with the symptoms. Let's start there, because how do people know if this might be something that they're dealing with?
Okay, so there's a couple what I would call classic adrenal dysfunction. So I'm going to interchange the words tonight: adrenal dysfunction and adrenal fatigue. Just adrenal issue. Just put it that way: adrenal issue.
Yeah.
There's a couple that are just absolutely classic, and then there's some that we know clinically behind the scenes are really telltale. So let me go through the classics first. One of the classics is just fatigue. And I don't mean like you're tired just because you took a long trip yesterday, but I mean the type of fatigue that you wake up and you're tired every day. That is not normal. That is not okay. It is not something that comes with age. Like, you're tired every day. Like, you're not going to work without your coffee. You're just starting to find yourself more and more tired. So that is number one. If you have general fatigue every day, it is not okay. We've got an underlying issue, and most likely it has to do with your adrenals. So that's classic number one. Number two is this: it's weight gain, specifically around the waist. Okay, and I'm going to explain how that gets there and why it's there. So for a lot of us, functional medicine practitioners, we can see, and to some degree, people who have adrenal dysfunction based on the body type. So those are important things. And then the third one, which has really been more of a buzzword or something that's been defined in probably the last 5 to 10 years, is brain fog. And brain fog, and those of you who've had it, you know what that means. Like, literally, like you're like, oh, and then the next thing you know, you just literally can't find the words, and you can't finish a sentence, and you can't complete a task. That brain fog, those three, but that's not where it ends. There's and again, so that's just fatigue and weight loss and brain fog, but there's some other telltale ones that tell me that the adrenal glands are not operating at their best. And I'll get into this just a moment, but one of the reasons this is so critically important is that your adrenal glands are what help the human body adapt to stress, adapt to life. Anything, whether it be COVID or whether it be a car accident or just your business or your friend, your spouse, your partner, the adrenal glands help humans adapt. So keep that in mind as we go tonight. So one of the other things is, if you bend over and you come up quickly, so we have a yoga studio, and I'll hear and see this a lot. Someone says, well, if I do a forward fold, I bend over, when I stand up, I get dizzy. That's an adrenal issue. And you're going to figure that out in just a moment. I'm going to help you understand the mechanics in that. But that moment, and then all of a sudden you get dizzy for a second, and then it goes away. That's not your blood sugar. That's not how blood sugar shows up. When you have that positional dizziness, you roll out of bed and sit up fast, and you get dizzy. That right there is an adrenal issue. Technically, it means that your adrenal glands, which help regulate blood pressure, are tired and they can't keep up. So that's another one. So another one would be simple that your skin is starting not to recover as well. You get a cut, your dog scratches you, and that cut that used to take like 2 days, 3 days to recover, now takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it leaves a little bit of a scar. And one of the simple reasons there, and one of the reasons I can look at the skin and also know what's going on or ask you about your skin health, is because your adrenal glands supply, actually they harness over 50% of all the vitamin C in the human body. And we talked, I think, a week or two ago, that vitamin C, the full complex vitamin C, is used for healing. So if your adrenal glands are exhausted and they're dysfunctional, you can't get the vitamin C to the tissue. So as a clinician, we can look at the skin or ask you a little about your skin health, and we see things that aren't healing. We know that underlying there's an adrenal issue. And one of the other classic ones is, and I'll say this because I work with a lot of athletes, and it doesn't mean you have to be an athlete to have this experience, but the more you work out, the worse off you feel. You feel as though your workouts are making your joints, your muscles more and more sore. If that's you, pay attention tonight, because you are headed from phase 2 into phase 3. And this is real important, because this is also the phase you start to gain weight and you think you got to work out more. And that means your muscles and your tendons are going to hurt more. And it's very, very slippery slope. So those are the classic signs. Those are just 6 of them. It could be a bunch of others as well. But those 6 right there, you got to gain weight, brain fog. Your body's breaking down in terms of your skin. You've got, what did we discuss? The dizziness when you bend over, weight gain, brain fog, immune challenges. So any of those symptoms could all be because of your adrenal glands.
Now, you talked, I mean, I think that's a lot of things that people are suffering with. I know I hear a lot of those things when I'm talking to people. People are definitely dealing with those. You started to mention phases. So what do you mean by phases when we're talking about adrenal fatigue?
Yeah, so I think it's important that we do just kind of cover the phases. It is a little technical. Usually this is the kind of stuff I'll teach other doctors or clinicians, but let's go through it. So everyone listening tonight can go, maybe they know which section they're in. And it gives you kind of an aha moment, because often just from the outskirts, if you talk to people about adrenal fatigue, they think, well, I'm not that tired. I must not have this adrenal fatigue. So I want to go through this. There's really 3 phases. And phase 1 is what we call the alarm phase. Okay. And this phase, I think almost everyone here tonight and on Facebook is going to relate to, because they've been in the alarm phase at some point. The challenge is if you get stuck in alarm phase or you repeat it over and over. And that is this. That is, you're wired and you're tired. You're tired, but you feel like you got to keep on going. So you're always trying to get to something, yet you can't complete anything. And I'll explain why this happens. So you're having more and more difficult time completing tasks or stepping back and seeing your whole day for what it is. One of the reasons this happens is you're stuck in fight or flight. You're stuck in some kind of stress. So your body produces a hormone called cortisol. It's a stress hormone. And it's a fight or flight hormone. So it gives you this laser pinpointed narrow focus. So your ability to look outside of that doesn't happen. And it's just short task. So your creativity goes, your ability to follow through on things, difficult. So that's the wired and tired. Another common one is, and this kind of goes with the symptoms, is you get tired every day, 2 to 4 p.m., you're crashing. And you need to take something to bump it up. And then all of a sudden, what's worse is that you get a bump at night. All of this, so you all of a sudden, 8, 9 o'clock comes around and you're wide awake. Folks, this is an adrenal issue. This is a hormonal imbalance caused by the dysfunction of the adrenals. So that alarm phase is where most people right away should start tending to their adrenals, not waiting for fatigue. So that's phase 1.
Okay.
Phase 2 is what we call the resistance phase. And this is interesting. So the resistance phase is when your adrenal glands were already in that fight. We're kind of wired and tired already. And in that moment, your cortisol production, your stress hormone, is going up. You have a high level of it. And I'm saying this because I'm going to give people the opportunity to buy a test, and they can just watch this again and they'll know how to read it. If your cortisol, your stress hormone, is going really high because you got so much going on, during the resistance phase, you're running out of cortisol because you can't make it fast enough. So what your adrenals do is they steal from your sex hormones to make more stress hormones. So it's always like this. Your body will always deal with stress before sex. Always. That's just the way the human body works. We want it the opposite way, of course. Yeah. And this is for a lot of women listening, like, this is real. When you're under stress, when you're under duress, your body cannot make that shift, partially because your body's stealing the progesterone. And that's what it does. You literally steal progesterone and testosterone to make more cortisol. So in phase 2, the resistance phase, your body's resisting this production of hormones so it can start to make more cortisol. The challenge here, this is when the weight begins. Now you start to have a weight gain. You have a hormone imbalance. You have a cortisol imbalance. It's still really high. And our fat cells are made up of 2 things, toxins and hormones. And you're producing all this cortisol. And the moment you release cortisol, cortisol requests sugar. So it's trying to keep your blood sugar high. High blood sugar means insulin, means fat storage. So that's the middle phase here. And what we'll see clinically is this is when the hormones start to change. This is when the moods start to change. Before it was just exhaustion. Now we're more irritable. or more cranky. Like you can ask someone's spouse and you just notice that people start to change their demeanor. They're short-wicked. All of these things, because now we're not making hormones that come from the adrenal glands: progesterone, pregnenolone, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen are all partially made in the adrenal glands.
Wow.
So that's
all right.
yeah. And I know that's a lot to digest right there, but let me throw in phase 3, and then you guys can ask me some questions if you want. So phase 3 is exhaustion. So first phase, wired and tired, go, 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 nonstop, but maybe not exhausted, tired, but you're still getting up and you're being productive. Phase 2, you're starting to actually change a hormonal shift, body changes. Phase 3, the bummer is now you've got the imbalance of hormones and the cortisol. You can't keep up with the stress hormone, and it drops. Hormones have dropped, cortisol's dropped, you got no energy. This is when the body is very, very vulnerable for parasites, for autoimmune conditions, for you name it, for viruses for that matter. This is when the human body is vulnerable, and that's when we are the farthest things from superhuman. Our minds might be saying going, but there's nothing about our body that says go.
And these kind of things that you're talking about, we can see these on a lab test, right? Like people can test these and see?
Yeah, real simple test. It's an at-home functional medicine test. That's the beauty of it. You can test it at your home. There's no needles involved. All you need to do is spit in these little vials. I say it's real easy, but it takes a lot of spit. Really what we're doing. So anytime, quite frankly, and this is for all my listeners, hormones are better tested through saliva than they are blood. They give us a better measure through the course of the day. They let us know what's actually functioning within the body, not just strolling through our blood, but what's in our tissues. So things like testosterone, things like progesterone, things like cortisol, the absolute most accurate tests. And I take the blood test as well, but they're going to be saliva. So there's a real simple test called an ASI, Adrenal Stress Index, just like it sounds. Perfect, simple test. You spit in 5 vials through the course of the day, from the beginning basically until you go to bed. When you wake up to when you go to bed, and you spread them out. The instructions are in there. And this measures your cortisol through the day. And in the morning, you're supposed to have really high cortisol. And then as the day goes, that cortisol should go down. The challenge is for some people, it goes back up. That's the wired and tired part. That's all right. We're in alarm phase, trouble here, but you show high cortisol. Phase 2, when we start to see it go down, there's another marker that we're going to test for, and it's a hormone called DHEA. DHEA, if there's one hormone out there that considered the anti-aging hormone, it's DHEA. It is the most abundant circulating hormone in the human body, and no one knows about it. So many of my women, which I have a lot of women that I take care of that are, that have been on hormones or off hormones. When I say, well, what's your DHEA levels? And they'll be like, I have no idea. Most times they're testing progesterone, estrogen, and sometimes testosterone. But DHEA is a precursor to all of those. And that's why it's so beautiful that we can test this and find out where we are well in advance of those hormones going out of balance.
Yeah, before we actually get to stage 3.
Oh, yeah. And that's the whole goal. Remember, we're in a strategy, superhuman strategy. Like, what actions can we, deliberate actions can we take as we gain information? How do we make that, how do we make, essentially information powerful? We take action with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so we've been talking a bit about hormones. How do hormones, I guess, fit in with adrenals? And I mean, we've talked a little bit about this, but maybe we can go in a little bit more about how this is affecting our hormones and how this links in.
Okay, so I'll do a little deep dive for you. This is my favorite part, and this is where I'm going to get a little geeky on everyone. But I think if you understand this, you can step back and recognize how important it is for every one of us to be addressing our adrenal glands. So, and by the way, your adrenal glands are these little glands about the size of like a walnut. They sit on top of your kidneys, and they sit on top of your kidneys, which is like right at the bottom of your 12th rib. So right in that section, almost your low back, but a little bit above. And a lot of times you'll have achy sores in there because your adrenal glands are swollen up and they're mad. So anyways, these little glands, they produce massive amounts of different hormones that help the rest of the body, basically help a human be a human. So there's really 4 categories of hormones that they go to. I'm going to go through these and listen closely here, because I'm going to preface this by saying, and you'll understand after I go through these why this makes sense. If you have high blood pressure, you got an adrenal issue. If you've been diagnosed with diabetes, you got an adrenal issue. If you've ever had leaky gut, you have an adrenal issue. If you have Hormone imbalance. You ever been told you have no hormones? You have an adrenal issue. And the reason I'm bringing that up, Karen, is because so many of those things I just mentioned, we get drugs and medications for, but we never get to either the root cause or at least part of the root cause. We got to end up addressing both if we actually want to heal those conditions. So let me dive in here. So the first one.
I never really thought of those conditions being linked to adrenal glands.
Yeah.
Before I heard you say it, and I think this is huge because a lot of people don't, they think just that condition, oh, I've got high blood pressure, take medication, this is what I'm doing here. And we don't link it to what else is happening in our body, what's causing these kind of conditions.
Yeah. So I'm going to dive a little deeper. You're absolutely right. And that is why I still to this day as a holistic practitioner, I think the most overlooked condition in our healthcare system is the health of our adrenals. And even if, regardless of what we call them, I got a friend over here, regardless of what we call them, we are overlooking the health of the adrenal glands. And they are our fight or flight glands. Those are the ones that are literally trying to help us save our lives, help us stay healthy, help us be superhuman. So without them, we got no shot at being superhuman. So number one is this. It's called, is this distracting? I hope not.
No, not at all.
There is one of the first hormones that's made by the adrenal glands is something called a mineral corticoid. Mineral corticoid. So think of minerals, all right? And that mineral corticoid supplies the nutrients, all the things that it needs for the kidneys to make the hormones for them to function good. And one of the things that it does is the kidneys regulate blood pressure. So if the adrenal glands are tired and are exhausted and cannot produce these hormones, these mineral corticoids, that's when blood pressure goes up. The kidneys have to overwork as a result of not having the proper hormones. So when someone tells me they have a blood pressure issue, they got a stress issue. Chronic stress leads to high blood pressure. This is the root. This is the holistic way of looking at it. It's not an abstract, like weirdo way. It is literally looking at human physiology, human function, and whittling down, like, what is the root cause of this? So if you've got a blood pressure issue and you haven't yet started to address your adrenal glands, start. And all of a sudden, now you're in a different phase. Now you're supporting the human function. So that's number one. So that's the mineral corticoids. Mineral corticoids. The next is glucocorticoids. Those glucocorticoids, think of glucose. They help you make something called cortisol. And this is the most popular or familiar hormone when it comes to your adrenals. Cortisol technically helps you manage blood sugar. So this is why I'd say if you've got a diabetes, if you have an insulin issue, if you have insulin resistance issue, you've got an adrenal issue. This is a lot where the weight gain comes. When we are pumping that cortisol into the human body, your blood, that cortisol signals to get sugar into the blood. So you have energy to deal with the bear or the tiger that's chasing you. So as that hormone, gets dumped in there and gets higher and higher and higher, we start to store those excess hormones in our midsection. So that's number two. Number three is the adrenal glands make sex hormones. So this is probably the biggest aha that I've watched patients when I tell them this, that did you know that DHEA is a precursor to testosterone? So if you have low testosterone, it means that your adrenal glands are not telling your brain to make it. So your testosterone issue is an adrenal issue. If you have low progesterone, part of that is maybe the ovaries, no doubt, but the other part, when the ovaries can't do their job, maybe they've retired, maybe you're in menopause, your adrenal glands are supposed to do that. But if they're under stress and you're in menopause, you're in trouble. Maybe we'll talk about that in just a moment. So your sex hormones, pregnenolone, DHEA, progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, all part of adrenal production. So if you have an adrenal exhaustion, you will tank your hormones. So now we got hormones. So now, of course, we got blood pressure right there with the mineral corticoids. We got glucocorticoids, which is the cortisol and the weight gain. We have the sex hormones, which all are hormone imbalances, and that's all of them across the board. And then the fourth one is something called catecholamines. No one needs to really know what that is, but those are the precursor hormones that help us make our neurotransmitters and our non-stimulatory neurotransmitters. I know a lot of big words, but really what that is, things like adrenaline, things like things like serotonin. This is where the anxiety and depression come from. If you don't have the precursors to make those hormones, that's when our emotional body changes. So that's again, so is anxiety, you got anxiety, you got an adrenal issue. If you have depression, you got an adrenal issue.
So really, there are so many of these different conditions that behind it are an adrenal issue, I guess, because all these hormones that you're talking about are so important for all these other functions in your body. And really, a lot of the time, we're not looking at how our adrenal is functioning in relation to these.
You know, and the interesting thing, it's not always, so adrenals can be the primary, but they're often secondary.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, so maybe we'll just dive into some of the causes that are kind of behind them, and they can kind of open up your eyes. So maybe you'll be like, well, I didn't have that much emotional stress in my life. Maybe there are other things that can, you know, that can, you say, essentially cause adrenal dysfunction. And there's a fair amount of them.
Well, before we dive into causes though, do you want to just quickly talk about menopause? Because we mentioned it and then we didn't dive into it. So let's talk about menopause, then we're going to go straight to the causes, guys.
Yeah, yes. And this is a huge topic, especially in my clinic and where I live here. This is the age bracket. So if you're out there, you listen on Facebook, you listen here on Zoom, thank you, of course. We love having you. And if you are in perimenopause or menopause, hear me closely, especially if you're in perimenopause. That just means, so you're sometime before your ovaries are retiring. And that's really what that means. Your ovaries are going to retire sometime. The state that you go in, really the state of your adrenal glands going into perimenopause and menopause determines whether or not you're going into menopause or helipause.
Okay.
Close.
Yeah.
All of those hormones like progesterone and stuff like that are made by the ovaries. The ovaries are going to stop doing their job. The amount of hormones you need are all perfectly supposed to be supplied by the adrenal glands. If your adrenal glands are already tired, you're in trouble. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. You must, all women, hear me out. As you're going in, when you get into, you know, maybe your late 30s, early 40s, moving on, you know, menopause is on its way. Full out attack, not even attack, full out support for the adrenal system. Because if you don't, and you go into perimenopause without the support of your adrenal glands, you got nothing. Your adrenals, your hormones will tank, and you can start dumping them into your body left and right. You probably need to be in your doctor's office every month because your emotions are going to change monthly. So, and it's not a fix, that process. Supporting the adrenal glands, balancing the hormones, that's the way to go. Yeah,
wow, I think that's really interesting for lots of people out there. I hadn't heard that kind of link for those menopause symptoms before. So, yeah.
I'll go as far as saying any menopausal symptoms first should be addressed in the adrenals, and then the hot flash, and then the weight gain, etc. Because after what I just spoke about, the hot flash is a blood sugar management, the weight gain is a cortisol management, so the sex hormone management. So again, it goes back, got to make the gland healthy because that's the one that's trying to manage all those things for you.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go into causes. What is making this adrenal gland unhealthy? What are we doing that's kind of causing some of these issues for us?
The simplest one we start with is stress. Yeah. You know, and I don't. So I'm a knucklehead by just trade. Like, you know, for many years I've been like, no, I'm not stressed. Look at me. I'm going to keep going. I think inherently
it's common. I don't think you're alone there, right?
Yeah. So, and I think everyone listening to this, like if you really do a gut check, I'm not saying you can't handle your stress. I'm saying that we are under stress.
Yeah.
We have created relatively abnormal lifestyles, abnormal like lives and desires and pushes. And I'm all for all of them. So listen, there's nothing that's going to slow me down unless I don't support my dreams. That almost happens. So the one of the biggest causes is chronic stress. And often it's invisible, but that's just one. That's just one of the kind of the obvious ones. But I'll give you another one. That's gut inflammation, leaky gut. You got leaky gut, you got an adrenal issue. Your body's always under duress. Remember, the adrenal glands, part of its job is to help us adapt to stress. So if you are constantly have gut inflammation, you got an adrenal issue. So chronic gut inflammation may be your primary. Your secondary issue becomes your adrenal dysfunction. Another one could be blood sugar imbalances, and that's a no-brainer. You're putting too much carbohydrates, too much sugar in there. You're stressing out the adrenal glands because they're trying to manage too much. Trauma. physical trauma. But this is interesting. So physical traumas come in different shapes and forms. You could have a bike accident, you'd be a football player, you might have a baby, and that's physical trauma. Any mom out there will say, yep, that was physical trauma. Even if you had a C-section, listen, your body doesn't care what kind of surgery you have. It's still always an invasion of the innate. And that invasion of the innate is something that is so overlooked right now. I mean, every type of surgery we have, regardless of the reason. I don't care if it's plastic surgery or elective surgery or surgery to heal your arm back on your body. If you've had a surgery, you've put stress on the adrenal system. So those are some trauma food sensitivities. And here's one that all my chiropractors know, that you can have at poor posture. Your body members always trying to adapt to stress, no matter what the stress is. Physical stress is stressful to the adrenal glands. So I got some people who are just working out too much. Always breaking down tissue causes adrenal stress. So it's anything that your body always has to adapt to.
Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? Even things like what you said as in poor posture, because I think there's so many of us that sit in front of their computer too long. Our lifestyles are inherently stressful on our bodies. And so how many people do you think suffer with adrenal fatigue or deal with some sort of adrenal issues?
Well, I think what we just talked about kind of answers that. So,
yeah.
I mean, I said clinically, if cost wasn't an issue, if whatever else wasn't an issue, I think everybody would benefit from some level of adrenal support. And there's different levels, and we'll go into a little bit about the different supplements I use and the different, strategies we use to help people level up. But I don't know anyone at this phase in the game, at this point in life. Like, listen, look at like what we're just going through now with, COVID. And then here in our country, we've got some massive other imbalances taking place. So those are massively stressful. I don't care who you are. Like those are abnormal situations, heightened elevations, so our minds are thinking. So I think everybody would benefit from supporting their adrenals, especially. So one of my favorite things, so when I take on a concierge client, is tell them, we're going to address your adrenal glands and make them the most powerful gland in your body. And they have no idea what I'm talking about, but I always get excited talking about it, because I know when we support the adrenal system and really level it up, get it robust, get it strong, help you become an adapting machine. And that's the goal. Shit can happen and you can restore. Like it can happen, like you can bounce back really fast. If you can do that, that's absolutely fantastic for your overall health. So that is why anybody who addresses their adrenals and levels up, and sometimes in the beginning you need a bunch, but then down the road it doesn't take as much once you get them healthy again.
Yeah, and I think this is it, and it's good to get excited about it, because I think a lot of us actually get used to a level of like being tired, or perhaps a level that's not superhuman, right? Like people just get used to it. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, well, I'm tired because, I'm busy at work, or maybe I'm getting older, or this. People just accept it. Oh, hey, I'm like tired, or I've got brain fog, or I'm not, I can't work out as much as I used to. Like a lot of people just start to accept this. And I think this information is so good to get out, because you don't have to accept that. Like it's not normal to be tired all the time. Like there are steps you can take to not feel tired all the time. And, I think some people have forgotten what it feels like to have energy.
Yeah. And I think that that's why it was one of my favorite topics. I get more comments from people that said, a year ago, everything was looking bleak. I was depressed. My body was going to hell. And I've been working on the things you talked about with your adrenals, and they take those steps. And in the beginning, it's difficult, because if you're like in that third phase, in that exhaustion phase, it's hard to even climb yourself out. That's why, sometimes using, help or practitioner sometimes is the key there. But that's where I've seen some of the biggest changes made in the and world, meaning like we maybe got to clean up the diet, but then also support the adrenals. And you're right. I think one of the things you just said right there really, rings to me in the sense that people have become used to being tired and being sick and that kind of stuff. And it's not what we're designed to do. We're designed to be like highly creative, highly functioning, and the age is not it. There's a part of me that always wants to like yell a little bit when I hear someone like, I'm getting old, I can't get up that early anymore, or whatever. Like just our bodies our creator made us pretty damn good, And if we supply our body and allow our bodies to be the best version that they can, then there's sky's the limit here. Sky's the limit.
Yeah. Awesome. If anybody's got any questions as well, let us know in the chat, or if you're listening on Facebook, like put some questions underneath and we can answer them. We've got one question here. For men, will this help with ED?
Yeah, so yeah, a fantastic question, because you see ED commercials, right? So when it's football season, it's every other commercial because I know guys got their eyes on it.
Okay.
So what I just said there, listen, if you've been diagnosed, you've been to the doctor, you have low testosterone, you have an adrenal issue, period. No matter how much you dump into your body, if your adrenal glands aren't signaling your brain for it, it means you might have it floating around, but you'll never feel the true effects of making testosterone as a normal stimulation. So the answer is yes. If you've experienced ED before, 100%. ED comes, remember, so it goes like this. I said stress before sex. And I'm not telling you have to get rid of all your stress. You have to be able to adapt better. Yeah. So we have to get our bodies being able to switch that gear. But when we go to switch gears, if our body is exhausted and can't produce the hormone, that's the trouble. So no doubt, whoever asked that question, thank you for asking it, because that is a phenomenal question. And we're addressing it the absolute wrong way. I don't know what it's like in Australia, but that is like the number one commercial during football season. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably don't watch as much football as you.
But, I don't watch that. Less than 8 hours Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, good. Well, speaking of watching, actually, our next question is, how do electronic devices affect your cortisol?
Yeah, so one of the key things here, and again, a phenomenal question, that your adrenal glands on every level, physical, emotional, chemical, which also means biochemistry, your adrenal glands are helping you adapt. So when we're sitting in front of these computers, we're getting an electricity force back to us, blue light getting back to us. Your adrenal glands are using a lot of your hormones to adapt to that. My eyes, your pupils dilate, your skin does a certain thing. That is what's doing. So the more we sit in front of these things, it's stimulating our body. So as crazy as this sounds, you can actually gain weight sitting in front of your computer without a dietary change. And as insane as that sounds, it's because you increase the cortisol production, increase the sugar out in the blood, the blood sugar levels, and you increase insulin. So the answer is yes. Again, these computers, they're part of the adrenal system. So again, back to your earlier question, should everyone consider supporting themselves? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what can we do? When we talk about everyone should support themselves, where do we start?
Okay, so this is not going to be a big surprise to anyone, but we could clean up the diet. We got to clean up the diet. So listen, because your adrenal glands, every time we eat sugar, they're stimulated. Let's just say you are one of the unique individuals who doesn't have any emotional stress in their life, but carbohydrates and sugar often. So every time you do that, you're bumping them. You're knocking on the door and saying, hey, Mr. Adrenal Gland, I need you to work. 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 That's what eventually fatigues the gland. So we got to clean up our diets. What's the best way? Low carbohydrate, low sugar. We're going to really, really watch the stimulants. Listen, everyone listen close, because this is how I got myself in trouble. Because the next thing I'm going to say is you got to sleep more. I was running low on sleep, exhausted, because, running businesses, running back from state to state when I was doing a little more traveling early in my career. And then I would get up in the morning, stumble into the kitchen, suck back as much coffee as I can as a stimulant, fire up my adrenal glands, and they're already tired. I'd run them until, whatever they could do. And then at some point, I was usually pretty mindful about not hitting another cup of coffee. But when things really started to kind of get downhill and I had no energy, I'd hit another cup of coffee prior to going to the gym. And listen, if you're that person, and I know you're out there because that was me, I would use a stimulant prior to going to the gym. That is the biggest no-no in the world. I hear coaches out there, oh, yeah, use a little caffeine. What are you, nuts? Hormones, energy should be produced with activity and excitement, not through a stimulant. And if you're doing that, you will burn out. It's just a matter of time.
Wow. I feel like caffeine before a workout is a pretty popular thing to do.
It's hugely popular. I did it for a decade. It's hugely popular. Yeah, and listen, but understand what it's doing. It's stimulating your adrenal glands. We want that stimulation to happen naturally. And listen, I'm 100% guilty of it. But if you're in my clinic now and people ask me, should I drink caffeine? I say no. Listen, if you can't get your motor running by lifting and moving your body and doing some jumping jacks or whatever it takes, then listen, you probably shouldn't be in the gym. You probably need to get some more sleep and then, burst out like a dog does. Like you should have pent up energy.
Yeah.
If you need to falsify your energy with caffeine, insanity. Listen, I get it, and I'm not judging anyone because I did it. I think I even taught people to do it, but no way. Not at this point. Not when I step back and I look at human function and physiology and try and become superhuman. Superhumans do not need stimulants to go to the gym.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. Well, we got another question that says, if you had to pick the most important key to losing weight, what would that be?
Diet. Yeah, you got to clean it up. And I think that's a fair question. With that being said, hear me closely here. So don't just record that part. Hear me closely. Everything in health is multifaceted. There's no such thing as one thing by itself. And that's why every time, when we do this, Karen, I'm always going to give suggestions if I have some herbs or something like that. But I also have to lead in with the fact that you can't have a bad lifestyle, can't outrun a bad diet. You can't, be eating like 4 donuts and then I give you some, adrenal complex and licorice and Romagna and think that that's going to fix your adrenal glands. So diet, because if you put the bad stuff in, no matter how much we support it. So I guess if I had to answer that question, diet first.
Yeah. And we might do a whole show on weight loss and that kind of thing as well for people, right?
We definitely will. That one might take a minute, but we'll do it.
Yeah. There might be a few shows as well. We got another question just on coffee before we move on from coffee. Is decaf okay? What do you think of decaf?
I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great. So and what I want to hear, what I'm hoping the audience hears, I'm not telling you that coffee is bad for you. I'm telling you that if you need coffee to go to the gym, if you need coffee. So listen, coffee's been around for thousands of years. I could also do a show on the benefits of coffee. It's very medicinal. It helps clean out the toxin. It helps clean out the liver, quite frankly. It's a great liver detoxer. If you put a little fat in there, and I can't wait to do that show. If you put a little fat in there, it can fire up your brain. So we can use coffee intelligently. Of course, it's organic, no doubt about it. So coffee isn't bad. Using it as a stimulant because you're exhausted, troublesome.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go. We were talking about solutions. We hit on diet. The next one was sleep.
No doubt. You gotta sleep. You heal when you sleep. You want to heal your adrenal glands. You want to recover them, even with the supplements I'm going to talk about. Yeah. You're going to use these supplements, these medicinal, magical, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000-year-old herbs that have been around in Chinese medicine forever for restoring human vitality or restoring qi to the body. You put them all in. They help you get better sleep. And we got to make sure we continue to honor that. Every show that comes on, I'm going to talk about anything. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, we got to sleep better. Yeah. Our society right now, we're bad sleepers. And again, I mentioned earlier, I have a concierge program. In that concierge program, I do my best to get all of my guys and all my women to get what's called an Aura Ring. So I can personally monitor their sleep because it's that important. If I can monitor their sleep, I can help create, very specific strategies to help them level up and help them become the superhuman guy or girl.
Yeah. And I think it's really good to say that because in our society, we've almost glorified not getting sleep. Oh, I can last on 4 hours, I'm okay after. And so I think it's good to keep hammering into people that it's important. The fact that you have only had 4 hours isn't a good thing. This is causing you to not be superhuman.
Here's how I fix my sleeping. So I was that guy that, I would sleep 4 to 5 hours a night. I'd go to work all day and I'd get out of the office 7:30, 8 o'clock, especially when I was up in my Atlanta practice. I'd go to the gym from there and I'd get all wired up because I'd be exercising. And then I'd go eat after the gym. And then I'd go home and turn on ESPN for a couple hours and be wired. And then one day my wife was like, yeah, that doesn't work anymore. So she values her sleep, and that's one of the reasons she never gets sick. So she eventually put her foot down and said, no more TV, and you got to be quiet when you come home. So when I was quiet, I couldn't turn anything on. Eventually, it was like, all right, I guess I'll just sleep. And I started going from 4 and 5 hours of sleep, which I would be like, that's all I need. I'm a beast. and I started getting 6, 7, 7.5, 8 hours of sleep, and it was almost like a revitalization. So sleep is a huge part of it, especially for, when my adrenals were tanking. That was a big part of my recovery.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about those herbs you were talking about. What kind of supplements people do?
So this is, and again, I know we talk about supplements each week, and I want to share with people that I use supplements. I encourage all my clients to use them because they allow us to cut the line a little bit, not cheat the human body, advance it for maybe things we haven't been doing greatly. So there's two I want to introduce tonight. One is something called adrenal desiccated. These herbs, this is literally, it's not an herb, it's actually not even a vitamin. It is actually desiccated adrenal gland, and it's used, this cold pressed gland is used to get you energy back fast, not a stimulant. So this is the big difference here. What it does, it immediately wakes up the gland to help start to restore it. I only use it short-term clinically. I'll use it from 2 weeks to 2 months, and then I pull you off it. It's just to wake you up so you can start to feel human again. But there's nothing healthier, faster than using desiccated adrenal immediately. And I pair it up, and I'll talk about that one in a moment. But the fastest way, if you want to get your glands back on board, I use this. So everyone that's been on an adrenal protocol, I put them on this first, and then I'll incorporate either simultaneously or down the road, depending on what they're willing to do. So the second one is something called adrenal complex, but more importantly, I want people to know what's in it. This is my go-to. This is what heals the body. It heals the gland. So there's 2 very specific herbs in there. One is called Rumania, and both of these herbs, Rumania and licorice root, are what's called adaptogen herbs. And adaptogen herbs, that we mentioned a little while ago, that adaptogens our adrenal glands are helping your body adapt. And the beauty about all herbs that are adaptogens, when you need calming, they help you calm. And when you need energy, they help you be energized. And that is really fascinating. People are like, I don't get it. Is it a stimulant? No, it's not. It works with the natural innate human powers to help your body function better. So we have hormones that bring us up and bring us down. And if we can get our adrenal glands to function better, that's the goal. So Rumania, so hear me close when I say this, when it comes to everything out there adrenal, Rumania, that herb, is the absolute number one to restore the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. That is how your adrenals talk to your brain. That is the number one herb. Not only that, Karen, what's really awesome about it, it's what we call tropho-restorative, which means it literally can heal the gland. So it regenerates a broken down gland. So the gland can shrivel up. Almost think of like a grape turning into a raisin, like it all shrinkled up like that. That's what the gland can do. And that adrenal desiccated helps bring some life back into it. And then over time, Rumania will bring a robustness back into the gland for the inside and the outside. That's the cortex and the medulla. And this Rumania herb, thousands of years. You look it up and you're like, damn, I wish I was on this earlier. Restores stamina. And here's the interesting thing. It works as a kidney tonic. So people out there that we talked about blood pressure. And really your blood pressure is adrenal, kidney, heart. That's the triad right there. We don't address the kidney and the adrenals, but that's really when you have high blood pressure, low blood pressure, that's where they're coming from. So Rumania also works as a kidney function, like helps kidney function. And it also has studies showing that people who use Rumania regularly increase their testosterone. And it has nothing, I'm not giving you testosterone, it won't test like testosterone. It restores the gland. Your gland makes more DHEA. DHEA stimulates the body to produce testosterone. So Rumania, that's one of them. And this other one is probably one of the top 10 most important herbs in the world, and that's licorice root. The beauty of licorice root, and the reason you'll see licorice root paired with so many different herbs, especially in Chinese medicine, they pair it with everything. It calms the other herbs down. So sometimes you could put it with like rhodiola ginseng, which is a strong stamina, energetic one. Put a little licorice root that, and it balances it out. So licorice root is another adaptogen herb. So those two together. So sometimes when it comes to helping your adrenal glands, it is this simple. I give them adrenal desiccated, I give them this, and they're both very therapeutic, which is something called adrenal complex, meaning there's 2 or more in there. Licorice root, again, been on this earth and been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years, therapeutically for so many things. The cool thing too, it's antiviral. That is right now what in China, all the practitioners like me are booming into people's bodies is licorice root because it has an antiviral capacity. Helps the mucosal in the throat, helps the mucosal lining in the body, meaning that it helps fight off viruses with this big COVID thing going on. So those two herbs together are one of the most effective tools for helping restore the gland and increase function when we got to do both of those.
We got a question. How often do you recommend taking these?
Yeah, so I'll put if you guys want, and as usual, we'll give you a discount. You guys get like 20% off anything you want to get tonight. I think there'll be a link, no?
Yeah, so I've just put a link in the chat, guys. So if you have a look down on your screen, you should see in the chat, or you can go to healthmadesimpleshow.com/adrenal. And at that link, we've added the 20% off so that you can get these supplements and some info on them there.
So when you're taking these, and I love that question because then people are thinking like, how do I take it? How do I incorporate this? How do I, make this work? Because a lot of times what happens supplements, we take one and be like, do I feel any better? No, remember, we're restoring function. We're leveling up systems, organs, and glands. And the challenge is we're conditioned on drugs. Like you take something and you're drugged out, but that's not this. But you will notice effect. When you combine these two, the adrenal desiccates, fast acting, literally in a week or two, you'll get an uplift of be like, all right, I got a little stamina back. Yeah, hear me closely. This is why I pair it. It doesn't mean that that gland is restored. We want to use those other herbs with more sleep and with a better diet to restore all this. So the dosing on this, so that the adrenal desiccate, I'm going to recommend everyone on it one steady month. If you're prolonged stress and trauma is going on, you might extend that. The other one, the adrenal complex, 3 months. Give yourself 3 solid months, depending on where you are. If you're in phase 1, give it a month. You'll notice the difference. You might not need it again. You'll just take a little bit of a dosing. If you've noted maybe you're in phase 2 and you recognize you're starting to gain some weight, at least 3 months. And if you're in exhaustion, of course, 3 months. And really the answer is until you feel like a superhuman again.
Yeah, awesome. And guys, on the link that we put in the chat as well, we've also put in there the adrenal test for you. So we talked earlier about how you can test and get some of that information about what stage, what phase you're in, like we were talking about. You can also do that at the link as well. So it's all there for you. Another question, if somebody wants to work with you, especially do they need to be in Seagrove where you are? How can somebody work with you to dive a little bit deeper? Maybe they've got a few more things going on. We kind of talk about some different symptoms. Maybe they've got a bunch of things. They want to do a bit more of a deep dive with you.
Yeah, well, fortunately, you can work with me just like this. So we've set it up so we can do Zoom, so it's private. And it's, it makes it actually easy especially nowadays, from your own home. So they just call the office. Maybe we can put a link into the website or a phone number. And with that, Karen, there's in these moments here, especially if your energy's declining and you've tried a little this, you tried a little that. That is whether you're going to work with me or someone else that understands these different phases or how to look at your body holistically. Don't waste time. That's the biggest thing I would tell people with their health. You don't have to fight it all the time. Go get some help. Get your life, get back on board. I know that's what I had to do. I eventually had to raise my hand and say, I need some help. How do I do this? I didn't have to figure it all out myself. And especially when it comes to adrenal fatigue, rarely do I find someone pull themselves out of this by themselves because they can't think right. They're exhausted. It's very difficult. That being said, there is a test for everyone. Did I mention the test? Did I talk about that?
Yeah. Okay,
so listen, you can, and then I don't know if you guys can put that link there as well, but if you want to test, we can test it. It's really simple. Again, it's an at-home test. For some of you don't need the test. Some of you don't need it. Not everyone in my clinic that I am supporting their adrenal gland has a test. If we have that data, it helps us a little bit more, but I promise you not everyone gets one. So you don't have to wait for that, but I think we're going to put it in the link as well. If you want to test and find out the specific state of your adrenals, that's something that you can do.
Yeah, sure. So we had another question on Facebook here. Just how do the adrenals affect your thyroid?
So, come here, get over here. How do they affect your thyroid? Well,
do they?
Yeah, they absolutely do. So walk with me for a moment here. At the core, the absolute foundation of all hormones are your ovaries and your adrenals at the base of it. So if either one of those are messed up, and for guys, it's their testes. If either one of those are out of balance, your thyroid will always be out of balance. So if you have an imbalanced thyroid, you have an adrenal issue, period. It's a period, big fat period there. And it can go both ways. It could have been primary thyroid first. Like you could have had dysfunction with it because you've had leaky gut for a decade and you're eating gluten all the time and it's throwing your thyroid function off. Maybe you have an autoimmune condition. Listen, if you got an autoimmune condition, you got an adrenal issue. So it can go either ways there. But if you've got a thyroid issue, your impact on affecting your thyroid will double when you get your adrenal supported as well.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. We got another Facebook question. What can I take for low DHEA?
So low DHEA, that's an adrenal issue. Okay, that's everything we've talked about tonight. So whether it's testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, pregnenolone, DHEA, that is an adrenal issue, and that's one of the things. So on that test we run, it tests very specifically your DHEA levels. And, there's hormones out there or supplements you can take DHEA, but I really caution it under supervision only, because if you falsify the gland, hear me out. So everyone listening to this, if you're taking DHEA, please work with your practitioner. Even though you can take this over the counter, it's a hormone. And if you start dumping it into your body, your gland's going to stop making it. And you got to real quickly know when to change gears there. So some people can run into a little bit of trouble there. So if you got low DHEA, the things we're talking about tonight, Rumania, licorice, adrenal desiccated, get the gland boosted up. If you're under a lot of emotional stress, add in the ashwagandha.
Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. Well, I mean, that is, hopefully everybody's found that super valuable. I know I have. I've learned something in this session for sure. So let's wrap it up by making health simple for people. Give me a recap of what we talked about.
Recap. All right. We'll make it simple as can be. Listen, if you have the symptoms, whether it be weight gain, brain fog, or your immunity breaking down, or you bend over and sit up and you're dizzy, you have any of those, you see your body, your fatigue is going down. I almost skipped fatigue because that's the obvious one. If you know that's happening, don't wait for it to go long haul here. It's too easy to level up your adrenal glands. And if you want to be superhuman, you have to bring your adrenal glands up to their best state, their best functioning point. There's simple herbs. Rumania is the #1 herb when it comes to reestablishing the function of the gland and encouraging that gland to get healthier. You can get your energy back real quickly using something like adrenal desiccated. Gotta sleep, gotta eat right. So I don't know if that was enough of a simple health tip, but it's really this simple. If things are going down, don't wait for them to bottom out. Take some action, usual. And just like I say every day, if you guys follow me on Facebook, we got to take deliberate action for the mind, for the body, and for overall wellness. And with that, and if you do that, then you'll be awesome.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, make sure you come on with us next week. Next week's topic is going to be a little bit different. So I'm super excited for that. Make sure you come same time, 6 p.m. CST, sorry. And we'll see you all on the next show. Bye, guys.
That'll be awesome.